Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Son of Dragon of Lightning and had secret harem with Kimiko. So do 4 blue hearts comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Fem Sasuke uncensored spicy version, link in description. Kimiko Tomoshiko, the Dragon of Fire, was running out of options at this moment in time. Currently, she was climbing the side of a cliff in an attempt to win a Shaolin showdown against Jack Spicer. Self-proclaimed, evil boy genius, to win the monkey staff. The staff was said to give the user the properties of a monkey, which means greatly enhanced agility and dexterity. Something that Kimiko could not let Jack have. Her friends were shouting encouragement from the sidelines, unable to help as she slowly climbed. Jack was already far ahead as he, literally, walked the side of the cliff with the help of the Jetbutsu, a Shengongwu that allows him to defy gravity. Which is unfair in Kimiko's opinion. You know this is a showdown, right, Kimiko? Jack sarcastically asked with a shit-eating grin. Growling as she heard the question, Kimiko shouted back, you know those boots make you look a dweeb, right, Jack? Nearly losing her grip, Kimiko practically hugged the wall and held on for dear life. She knows there wasn't any actual danger because even if she lost, which definitely wasn't going to happen, then she would just appear on the ground with her friends. But it was still terrifying to climb the side of a mountain like this without any sort of equipment. Deciding to ignore Jack, Kimiko tried to climb even faster but was having no luck as the wall crumbled every time she tried to grab hold. Looking up, Kimiko's eyes widened when she saw the monkey staff, but she could also see that Jack was getting closer. You might as well say, bye-bye, to the monkey staff. 'Cause that one's as good as mine. You wish, shouted back Kimiko as she decided it was time to use her own Shengongwu. Fist of Tebogong. Raising her fist which was holding onto a metal gauntlet. It glowed as she called out its name and slammed it into the side of the mountain with its power. The entire mountain shook from the force of the punch, causing rocks from far above to break off and fall. Yeah, like that's gonna work, commented Jack as he just stood there, unaffected by the earthquake. These boots defy gravity, remember? While the earthquake didn't affect it affected Kimiko as she began to lose her grip from all the shaking. Jack glanced back and continued speaking, not caring that his opponent was about to fall. Classic miscalculation. Your hot little head has ensured your defeat. Losing her grip with her right hand, Kimiko tried in vain to hold on with her left. No, she screamed as the rock she was holding onto broke off, causing her to fall. Damn it. Her scream echoed throughout the mountain area as Jack grabbed hold of the monkey staff, claiming victory over the challenge. Check it and weep, baby. There was a massive flash of light and, when it ended, Kimiko landed on top of a small tree, crashing through its branches before slamming into the ground hard. Coming to a stop, she looked at her left hand and was helpless as the fist of Tebogong vanished. I lost, she thought in both anger and sadness. The fist of Tebogong is mine. Jack happily said as he floated over to the fallen girl, the Jetbutsu is mine. As soon as he got to Kimiko, Jack flipped and landed in a perfect one-handed handstand like it was easy. Oh, and look at this. The monkey staff is mine too. He gloated happily, ignoring the murderous look Kimiko suddenly held. I now have the agility and balance of a monkey. Feeling something at the back of his waist, both Jack and Kimiko watched as a tail suddenly burst through Jack's clothing. It took Jack a moment before he grinned, hey. And a really cool tail. Laughing, Jack jumped away while flipping happily, leaving Kimiko on the ground as her friends approached her. You all right there, Kimiko? Clay asked as he crouched a little, extending a hand to help his friend up. Taking the hand with a small, thank you, Kimiko couldn't help but frown as she could hear Raimundo sniggering into his hand. Nice winning strategy. What do you call it? The slip and fall. He asked before falling to the ground in laughter, missing the dirty look Kimiko was giving him. Jack just got lucky, Kimiko huffed as they all walked towards dojo. Who grew to the size of a large dragon? The next Shengongwu is mine, whenever that reveals itself. Just as soon as they all sat down on Dojo's back, the green dragon shook violently with a gasp. Good news, he said happily as he flew into the air with the 4 monks holding on. Another Shengongwu just revealed itself. Reaching into her bag, Kimiko pulled out a scroll before opening it. With her 3 friends all leaning over to see what Shen Gongwu was revealed. The Tangle Web Comb, Kimiko read off of the scroll. Looks like it shoots hair and then binds the target. Damn, that's hairy, Raimundo said, with everyone giving him a deadpan look. What? It is. After only a half hour of flying, the group made it to their destination. Ah, the Loch Ness. Dojo reminisced as he flew down to the water. With ease, he shaped his body into a boat and landed in the water safely. Oh, the water is colder than I remember. I don't know how my cousin, Nessie, can stand living here. Must have something to do with all the attention. As Dojo droned on about how famous his cousin is, which was proven true by someone on the shore shouting about seeing the Loch Ness monster. Kimiko was lost in her own thoughts as she stared at the water below with a harsh glare. Not only was it incredibly annoying that Jack Spicer got lucky and won a showdown, but our friends have been making comments non-stop about her loss, her temper, and all sorts of stuff. It took every ounce of self-restraint to not punch her friends off of Dojo and into the freezing water. I believe it is most obvious as to why our friend, Kimiko, lost to Jack, spoke Omi, getting Kimiko's attention as well as Raimundo's and Clay's. Kimiko could not have done better in her showdown, as she is a girl. He said with a smile. Happy with his answer. Nearly falling down in shock at the answer, Kimiko rounded on Omi and growled out, "What was that?" Not knowing of the danger he was in, Omi continued, "Since we met, I have been studying all about girls from this 11th century tome." He pulled out a book and showed it to Kimiko, who read the title out loud, The Ancient Guide to Females. Yes, replied Omi. It tells us that your talents lie elsewhere. In the kitchen, for example. Walking up to the 2, Clay joins in as he hoped to defuse the situation before something happens. Omi, don't be so hard on Kimiko. She was just trying to do her level best, which was pretty good, considering, he finished. Her anger growing by the second, Kimiko poked Clay in the chest and asked, considering what? Considering you're such a hothead, Clay answered honestly, with his point being proven. I believe her failure was due to lack of upper body strength, Omi suggested. Snapping, Kimiko clenched her fists. I'll show you upper body strength. She screamed in rage. Laughing at what he was seeing, Raimundo joined in as he pointed to the girl. Look out, she might use her slip and fall move on you, he said with a laugh. Kimiko looked ready to lunge at her 3 friends, but Dojo stopped the potential fight as he stopped in the water with a loud yell, "We're here." The Fu, our dragon monks looked around but could see nothing but the water. As in right here, Dojo finished as he pointed his head downwards, towards the bottom of the large lake. Mine, Kimiko shouted before anyone could say anything. Intent on bringing back at least one Shen Gongwu. Kim's right, Raimundo said as Kimiko got ready for her dive, it should definitely be hers. She has to replace the one she just lost. Sorry. Raimundo quickly finished as Kimiko glared at him. The 2 that she just lost. Trying her best to ignore him, Kimiko took a deep breath and dove into the cold water. It was a sea to see the Shen Gongwu as it reflected some of the sunlight through the water. It was deeper than she had expected, but nothing too difficult as she managed to quickly reach the tangle web comb, grab it and swim straight up. Breaching the surface, Kimiko took a few deep breaths and grinned triumphantly at her friends as she held the Wu out for them to see. Got it. Now that they were all back at the temple, the group of 4 all got changed into their training outfits, which were a red robe with a black sash and white trousers, black in Omi's case. They then all walked out to the training yard, eager to try out the new Shen Gongwu. Holding it, Kimiko felt nothing but pride at having a new Wu in her hand. It's a comb, Raimundo said, sounding disappointed as they each examined it. Oh, yes, Omi commented. Accessorizing is within your talents as a female. Kimiko just knew that her left eye was twitching from that comment. Tired of the comments, Kimiko walked forward. Just stand back and be prepared to be impressed, she said. Tangle web comb, she shouted, her dark hair whipping about as she gracefully spun on the spot, pointing the small comb at a training dummy meters away. A tendril of brown hair flew from the comb at high speeds, but Kimiko followed its movement with her eyes. The hair flew towards the target and only just managed to graze it, making Kimiko shout in triumph as she believed she had finally managed to successfully use the Shen Gongwu. But, just as the hair grazed the target, it immediately turned and shot towards Kimiko. Before she could react, the hair wrapped around and bound her. "Damn it!" shouted Kimiko as she struggled against her bonds. "Help me already," she shouted to her friends. "I've got a better idea," Raimundo said with a grin. "How about we go look through her stuff since she's busy mastering that comb?" Hearing this idea, Omi nodded his head enthusiastically while answering, "Ooh, I've never looked through a girl's stuff before. This shall be enlightening." "What?" Kimiko shouted, having heard exactly what they were planning on doing. With renewed vigor, she tried to escape her bonds to stop the boys from even going near her stuff. But no matter how much she struggled, the hair just seemed to hold on. "Let go already, Kimiko," a wise voice said from behind the struggling girl. Turning, Kimiko saw Master Feng, an elderly monk, walking over to her. "Are you in need of assistance?" "No," she shouted out, falling to the ground. "I just need to practice." Obviously not believing her, Master Feng said, "Yes, T. He tangle web comb is a difficult Shen Gongwu to master. It requires absolute focus." Reaching over, he flicked the hair, trapping Kimiko. Responding to the touch, the hair released Kimiko and quickly merged back with the comb. Now that she was free, Kimiko stood. "Thank you," she answered in a grateful tone before glaring at the comb in Master Feng's hand. "There has to be something wrong with that thing. I was totally focused." "Is that so? Then please demonstrate this tremendous focus," Master Feng suggested as he and Kimiko walked over to a table nearby. Sitting down, he crossed his legs ND then motioned towards the large pot of tea and the circle of small teacups. Kimiko wondered when all this was set up, especially without anyone noticing. "Please pour some tea." "Really?" Kimiko asked in an incredulous tone. Not understanding how this was supposed to test her focus. "It requires absolute focus to successfully pour tea from that pot into those cups without spilling a single drop," Master Feng explained. Lightly scoffing, Kimiko shrugged while walking over to the table. "All right, but this is a waste of time," she said before picking up the surprisingly heavy teapot. With ease, she poured the tea into the first cup and then the second. Completely focused, Kimiko said with a confident smile. The door opening drew her attention and made Kimiko frown as she saw her friends walk in. It only took her a second to realize what they were each holding. "Hey. That's my stuff. Keep pouring, Kimiko," Master Feng said. "Oh, Kimiko's making tea," Raimundo said as he and the others all sat at the table. Still playing with her belongings. Wiping the lipstick from his mouth, Omi said, "Ah yes, the traditional female role. Let's just hope the tea is tastier than this candy." "That's lipstick you're eating there," Clay said with a laugh. Looking over to her master, Kimiko begged for him to stop the others, but he just raised his hand. "Keep pouring. You must drown out all distractions. And quiet the storm of your mind. Only then will you achieve absolute focus," Master Feng advised, seeing this as a good test of her patience. With no choice, Kimiko growled out before pouring the tea again. Her hands shaking from the anger she was feeling. The teacup began to shake but eventually settled without spilling, making Kimiko sigh in relief. This task suddenly became a lot harder than she had originally thought. "Okay," she muttered to herself, "only a couple more to go." Going to Omi's left, Kimiko made sure to angle the large pot so that it blocked her view of the bald child. "I am very surprised Kimiko can lift such a heavy pot with such delicate female arms," Omi said, not knowing he was making things worse. Her anger finally getting to her, Kimiko moved the pot and glared heatedly at Omi. "What did you just say?" she shouted before realizing the pot was pouring tea all over the table now. In shock, she accidentally threw the pot and watched in horror as it flew through the air. Only to crash and shatter, spilling its content all over the floor. All Master Feng could do was shake his head before walking away, making Kimiko feel worse as she failed her test. The next day, Kimiko was back in the training yard. She was determined to master this Shen Gongwu, but it refused to work with her. Every time she used it against the dummy nearby, the hairs would fly back and ensnare her. "Tangle web comb," Kimiko shouted for the umpteenth time that day, firing the comb's hair at the dummy. Unsurprisingly, the attack neared the dummy and launched back at her, wrapping around her tightly. "No," Kimiko cried as she struggled against it. It usually takes about 10-15 minutes of struggling before she sets herself free. the record was a half hour, which was her last attempt. Omi and Raimundo had chores to do while Clay was making lunch in the kitchen, with all three knowing it was best to stay away from Kimiko for a while as she was still pissed at them for everything they did yesterday. Stomping her feet as she continued her struggle, Kimiko gave one last cry before dropping to her knees. "Why can't I get this stupid thing to work?" she screamed in her mind, but she already knew the answer. Every time she used the tangle web comb, all she could think about was losing that showdown and her friends all making fun of her instead of helping. All she could do was glare at the annoying piece of wool laying at her feet. Hearing footsteps, Kimiko didn't even bother turning around as she knew who it was. Neither said anything as the person walked up to her and flicked the hair, sending it back to the Wu and setting Kimiko free. "Thank you, Master Feng," she muttered with her head down. "The Shen Gong Wu still isn't listening to you, I see," Master Feng commented as he watched the girl, idly stroking his beard in thought. Kimiko didn't answer, but she didn't need to. "I am sure you will learn how to master it, given time," Master Feng said as he began to walk away. "The mind is like water. When it is turbulent, it is difficult to see. When it is calm, everything becomes clear," he said out loud. Kimiko watched him leave, before staring at the tangle web comb again. It wasn't difficult to understand what Master Feng meant, it was just difficult to accomplish it. Reaching down, she had just managed to pick up the annoying comb before she heard, "We've got another one." Turning around, Kimiko saw her three friends crowded around a small lizard. Running up to join them, she asked, "Another Sheng Gong Wu?" "Already." Dojo, the small green lizard, nodded as he held a golden scroll. Opening it, he held it so that the four students could see. "Yep, and this Sheng Gong Wu is very special. The golden tiger claws," Raimundo, a tall tanned boy, said with his hand on his chin. "Looks like you can use it to teleport anywhere you want just by slashing the air." "Pretty cool," he commented as they all watched a small figure in the scroll slash the claws and then disappear, only to reappear somewhere else. "Just imagine the fun you could have with those," the large boy, Clay, said as he tipped his cowboy hat. He thought about using the claw Ws to go to the best barbecue restaurant in all of Texas. He was licking his lips just thinking about it. Omi, the little blad monk, frowned. "Yes. Just imagine what our enemies could accomplish with such a Sheng Gong Wu." "Way to spoil the mood, kid," Dojo commented as he closed the scroll. "We leave in a half hour, so get ready." True to the dragon's words, they left the temple after a half hour. Dojo, now a gigantic dragon instead of a small lizard, carried each monk on his back as he flew above the clouds so they wouldn't be seen. "I can already tell it's not that far," he said. "We should be there in 10 minutes or so." "I can't believe you brought that," Raimundo said with a laugh, pointing at the comb Kimiko held. "You can't even use them without tying yourself up," her cheeks glowing red from slight embarrassment. Kimiko replied, "Master Feng told me to take it. He thinks I'll be able to master it when we're looking for the golden tiger claws." She scoffed, pocketing the tangle web comb. "If I were to lose another showdown, it wouldn't be a great loss to lose the stupid thing. Not that I'll lose again though," she finished, muttering to herself as her last defeat was still fresh on her mind. Stupid gravity and stupid fist of Toboggan. As the group of friends were talking amongst themselves, Dojo sniffed as he caught a scent. It was a familiar scent, one he had not smelled in a long time. He could already tell that it was within the vicinity of the Sheng Gong Wu, so he had the perfect chance to follow it. "We're here," he called as he suddenly flew downwards, surprising the four monks as they had to hold on in case they fell off. Finally reaching the ground, Dojo announced, "Welcome to Chufu City." Each warrior jumped off of Dojo as soon as they were close enough to the ground. With Dojo quickly shrinking down and landing on Clay's hat, they all marveled at the city and the crowd of people bustling about. It was the same in a few cities they had already visited in T. He passed, but it was always fun and interesting to see new places and how different it was compared to other cities. As they walked, Dojo sniffed around a little and pointed down a street. "That way," he said, desperation clear in his voice. The group didn't question the dragon's directions as Dojo always knew where to go. However, from now on, they will be making sure he stuck to searching for Shen Gongwu because he had just led them to a food stall. "Dojo," Kimiko said with a sigh, "what are we doing here?" Peking roast duck. Dojo answered while drooling, watching as the chef put down a plate of roast duck in front of a customer. I haven't had it in years. As soon as I smelled it, I knew I had to have it. Clay whistled as he saw the food, lifting his hat a little to get a better look. Gotta admit, it does look good. I'll try it, but I doubt it'll be better than the steak back home, the large boy said, remembering all the good times he ate at the barbecue restaurants. But what about the Shengong Wu? Kimiko asked in annoyance. Jack and Wuya could already be here. We don't have time for this. But they all ignored her, even Omi, as he watched the chef chop up vegetables with impressive speed. Just as she was about to leave in search for the golden tiger claws, a person accidentally bumped into her. Hey, watch where you're going, Kimiko shouted before trailing off as she got a good look at the man. His blonde spiky hair stood out from everybody else's, and he was taller than Kimiko, just an inch or two taller than Raimundo if she had to guess. He wore faded blue jeans with black trainers as well as a tight black shirt beneath a gray hoodie underneath a black leather jacket. The leather jacket had an orange stripe going down its sides. Sorry about that, the man said. His smile crinkling the whisker marks on his cheeks. I wasn't paying attention. No problem, Kimiko replied, staring into the man's deep blue eyes. She couldn't help but blush, this man was just so handsome. The man then turned towards the food stall and sniffed the air, allowing Kimiko to see the large orange spiral on the back of his jacket. Oh, something smells good, he said as he walked over. Standing just behind Raimundo and Clay, the two too distracted by their orders being prepared. Placing a hand on their backs, the man asked, don't suppose you guys want to share? I'm a little light right now. Get your own buddy, Raimundo rudely replied, not even bothering to look at the stranger. Clay was more polite as he shook his head, sorry partner, I'm not much for sharing good food. Not the least bit offended by Raimundo's rudeness, the man just laughed a little as he patted their backs. Not a problem, there was no harm in asking. Enjoy the food, okay. Turning around, he looked at Kimiko and winked with a grin before walking away. Her eyes following him, Kimiko couldn't help but stare at his retreating figure, a dreamy sigh escaping from her lips. She might be a warrior monk in training. But a girl can dream, damn it. The large plate of food was placed down in front of Clay and Raimundo, with a third one being placed in between for Dojo. The chef behind the counter just laughed at their hungry looks before saying, that'll be 73 yuan each, please. Both Clay and Raimundo reached into their pockets but froze when they couldn't feel their wallets. Trying the other pocket, they started patting themselves all over in hopes of finding it. Dude, I can't find my wallet. Raimundo cried out. I can't find mine either. Clay shouted, even searching his hat but found nothing. The chef frowned and grabbed their plates before taking them away. If you cannot pay, then you cannot have my food, he said angrily. He reached over and grabbed Dojo's plate as well. And neither can your small gecko friend. No, screamed Dojo as he was denied one of his favorite foods. Give it back, please, he begged, diving for the plate, but the chef just swatted him away like a fly. No money, no food. Now get out, the chef roared, slamming down his fists. Both Raimundo and Clay just left, grabbing and dragging Dojo out with them and Omi following after. As soon as he saw Kimiko, Dojo shot from the ground and grabbed her shoulders. Please give me money, he begged, shaking the poor girl back and forth. I want that duck. Ripping Dojo off of her, Kimiko dropped him on the ground and asked. What happened? Left your money back at the temple. She couldn't help but laugh, feeling happy that her friends are getting a bit of bad luck instead of her. I was sure I brought mine, Raimundo insisted, wondering if he possibly dropped it when Dojo was flying. I never take it out of my hat, Clay said as he waved his hat about, showing that nothing was there. Do you mind if we borrow some money? I'm really starving and everyone's ignoring Dojo, he asked, with everyone noticing the small green dragon asking random strangers for money, but everyone was ignoring him. Rolling her eyes, Kimiko took off her white backpack. Fine, but you both better pay me back, she said as she searched her bag. But after a few seconds, she frowned as she too realized she couldn't find her money anywhere. What? Where is it? She asked, turning her pack upside down and spilling its contents everywhere, but no purse or wallet fell out. Raimundo sarcastically said, what happened? Left your money back at the temple? He asked, copying exactly what Kimiko had asked him and Clay, word for word. Shut up, Kimiko shouted back before calming herself in case she draws a crowd with all her shouting. Her mind then flashed back to the man that had bumped into her accidentally and remembered how he had gone up to Raimundo and Clay when they were waiting for their food. That guy was a thief, she said in realization. This drew everyone's attention. You encountered a thief, Kimiko? Omi asked. She nodded, looking about in hopes of seeing a head of blonde spiky hair again. Yeah, this guy bumped into me and must have taken my money. I saw him go up to Clay and Raimundo when they ordered food, she explained with a frown, wondering how she didn't notice the man stealing from her. Was it because she was too distracted by how hot the guy was? No, Kimiko internally reassured herself, I was just distracted by finding the Shen Gongwu. He caught me when I was already distracted. Do you know what this thief looked like? Omi asked. Yeah, the guy was tall. He has blonde hair, blue eyes, and a cool leather jacket with these orange patterns on it, Kimiko described. Oh. He also had these marks on his cheeks. They looked like whiskers or something. Raimundo laughed when Kimiko finished giving the description. The dude stole your stuff when you were too busy checking him out. Says the dude, Kimiko said, putting emphasis on dude, to make it more sarcastic, that didn't know someone stole from them when they were ordering food. We should all split up, advised Omi. This way we can all search this place from bottom to top. Groaning, Raimundo said, that's, from top to bottom. That's one of the easier ones as well. Whatever, let's just get this over with. I'm starving. With a nod, the monks ran in different directions, with Dojo wrapped around Kimiko's shoulders, each hoping to find this thief soon. They jumped to the top of building S to see if they can see anyone that was blonde, but the only blonde they could find was Clay. They then tried asking people, with some not understanding English and others not seeing anyone like the thief. It was like the thief just vanished into thin air. Even after a half hour of running around, Kimiko couldn't find the man, and it was annoying her more than what happened yesterday. Where the hell is he? He couldn't have just disappeared like this. She shouted out as she walked through an empty street, the noise of the public quietened due to the distance. Calm down, Dojo said, getting angry won't find this guy any faster. Besides, maybe we should find the others. We still have to find the tiger claws. Sighing, Kimiko begrudgingly agreed, as that was the real reason why they were all here in the first place. Fine. Do you remember which way we came from? She asked, realizing she doesn't know where she was. Dojo just shrugged, not having a clue either. Great. Picking a random direction, Kimiko walked down the street, hoping to just find the golden tiger claws and then go back to the temple. Turning a corner, she came to a sudden stop as she saw the man that she and her friends were all looking for. He was walking down the street, a backpack over his shoulder, humming to himself without a care in the world. Running up to him, Kimiko got close and then jumped over, landing a couple of meters away. She smirked as she saw his look of surprise. Finally found you, she said with a small glare. Not that I mind a cute girl looking for me, but is there a reason why? The man asked casually, a smile still plastered on his face as he took off his headphones. Despite the fact she was angry at him for stealing from her, Kimiko couldn't help but blush a little. Shaking her head, her glare intensified. You stole money from me and my friends. I want it back now, or else, she threatened, cracking her knuckles to emphasize her point. Putting a hand under his chin in thought. The man waited a few seconds before replying, nope. Sorry. Why? Kimiko shouted, with Dojo jumping into her backpack to keep himself safe from her anger. Don't want to, the man answered like it was simple. Almost immediately, Kimiko lunged at the man, but he just stepped to the side. Landing in a roll next to him, Kimiko spun around with a kick that the man jumped back from. Someone's angry, he commented with a laugh. Give me my money back. She screamed, throwing kicks and punches at the man in anger, but he dodged every single attack. And stop moving around so much. Still laughing as he ducked under a punch. The man said, I'd rather not stop moving, otherwise you'll just hit me, and I don't want you punching me. Jumping back to put some distance between them, the man put his hands out as a sign to stop for a moment. Which she surprisingly did. Tell you what though, he began, I'll give you your money as well as your friends if you can catch me. Furrowing her brow at that, Kimiko asked, catch you? Grinning, The man suddenly turned and ran into the trees on the edge of the village. "Wah hey!" Kimiko shouted before running after him into the tree only to lose him immediately amongst the foliage somehow. "Unbelievable," Dojo spoke to Kimiko as he hung on in case he fell. "We don't have time for this, but this guy wants to play hide and seek. First I lost the showdown to Jack. Then I get a Shen Gongwu that refuses to work with me. After that Raimundo, Clay, and Omi all go through my stuff and even ruin most of it, and now I'm chasing a blonde jackass that's hiding from me in the woods." Kimiko muttered as she ran around, only seeing green and brown instead of yellow and orange. "It's just one thing after another. Having a bad week," the man's voice said from Kimiko's left. She charged in that direction but couldn't see him anywhere. "You should try letting loose once in a while and have fun." This time the voice came from behind but she still couldn't find him. Growling, Kimiko shouted back, "When I get my hands on you I'm gonna." His laughing interrupted her threat. "As fun as that sounds, how about we leave that kind of talk until after you catch me? That is if you can." From where he stood on a branch high up a tree, the thief watched as Kimiko ran back and forth. It was amusing to watch. Now if only he had something to eat. Stealing EY from a couple of foreigners and then messing with a girl like this can really work up an appetite. "Got him," a small voice said as something grabbed onto the man's ankles. "What the hell?" The THIEF shouted in surprise as he tried to move away. But with someone grabbing his legs, he stumbled and fell off the branch, hitting a few more as he crashed down onto the ground. "Ow," he groaned before sitting up and looking at who grabbed him. "A lizard grabbed me and shouted, 'Got him?'" he questioned in confusion. Dojo, who crashed down with the man, shook his head and then shouted, "Hey! I am a dragon, not a lizard." Clearing her throat, Kimiko grinned as the thief froze from where he was on the ground and turned to look at her. "Found you," she said triumphantly. She then lunged for him again, intent on winning this stupid game. To her surprise, he rolled to the side and stood up, holding Dojo by his arms. "But you still haven't caught me," the thief cheekily said with a smirk. Finally reaching her breaking point, Kimiko snapped. Reaching into her coat, she pulled out her wu and aimed it at the confused blonde while shouting, "Tangle web comb." The wu activated and fired a stream of hair. The thief stood there in surprise at what was happening. He watched as the attack neared him and then, just as it was about to catch him, suddenly turn and fly at Kimiko. "No!" she screamed, the hair wrapping around her. Every damn time, she managed to shout before the hairs covered her mouth. "What just happened?" the man asked in confusion, watching as Kimiko struggled against her bindings. Dojo just sighed but answered anyway as he got out of the man's grip. "The tangle web comb is a tricky Shen Gongwu. It's supposed to ensnare targets and bind them with a lot of hair, but if the user isn't focused enough, then the wu will turn against them and bind them instead. Unfortunately, that is what has happened to poor Kimiko here. She's been having trouble mastering the tangle web comb because she cannot focus." Even though he didn't know what a Shen Gongwu was or why it used hair, of all things, to type people up, the man nodded along with the small dragon, which also confused him since dragons were supposed to be a myth, especially talking ones. "Should we help her?" the man asked as they continued watching as Kimiko thrashed about, trying in vain to free herself. "Either that or we wait. She's usually able to free herself in about 15 minutes, give or take," Dojo answered. He then flinched as he heard Kimiko scream in rage against the hair. "I wouldn't recommend waiting though. She does have a temper." Deciding it would be best to help, the man walked over to Kimiko with raised hands to show he had no ill intentions. "I'm going to help, okay?" he asked, stopping right next to her. She continued to glare up at him for a few seconds before nodding. Seeing this, the man knelt down and began to pull against the hairs, being careful not to touch anything he shouldn't. As they were working on this, the man tried to start a conversation. "Your name's Kimiko, right? Where did you even find this thing?" Now that the hair wasn't over her mouth, Kimiko was able to talk. "Why should I tell you? You'll just try and take it for yourself." She snapped at him. "Who are you anyway?" she demanded, now realizing she didn't even know the guy's name. As he tried to free Kimiko's left arm, the man grinned as he answered, "Can't blame you for thinking I'd do that." The thought did cross my mind. He laughed a little, not the least bit offended that she'd think he'd steal from her again. And my name's Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki, he introduced himself. Now that I've answered your question, do you mind answering mine? Where did you find that thing? He repeated the question from earlier. Kimiko grunted as she tried to free at least one of her limbs, but it was impossible. Sighing as she could be here a while, she decided to just answer the guy's question. Fine. My friends and I travel the world to find the Shengongwu to make sure that bad guys like Jack Spicer don't get their hands on it, she answered truthfully. We got the tangle web comb yesterday in Scotland. You don't sound happy about that, Naruto commented. But, then again, I think I can see why. Spotting the tangle web comb next to Kimiko, Naruto picked it up and examined it with a curious expression. It looked like an ordinary metal comb and, if it wasn't for what he saw happen earlier, would have believed it was one as well. So can I not just use this thing and free you? No, Kimiko said back, keeping an eye on the man in case he just took the woo and left. Not like she could do anything if he could though, and it's not like Dojo could do anything either. You need absolute focus to use it, and if I can't use it, what makes you think you? Tangle web comb, Naruto interrupted as he pointed the comb at her. The woo glowed and then the hairs around Kimiko suddenly moved and unwrapped around the shocked girl before flying back into the comb. Hey, it worked, Naruto said happily, proud of himself. Tangle web comb, he said, aiming the comb at a random tree, firing the hair around it successfully. He repeated the process a few more times, calling back and then firing the hair. Kimiko dumbly finished her sentence as she watched Naruto master the woo that refused to listen to her in seconds. It took a good 5 seconds for her to finally process what was happening before she shouted, "How did you do that?" Shaking his head to stop the ringing from her shouting, Naruto answered. Wasn't that hard. I just aimed and said the thing's name. He then tossed her the comb. It's pretty cool, not a fan of the whole hair thing though. It's a little creepy. But how? Chuckling at how this was affecting the poor girl, Naruto said, it's not difficult, you're just too stressed. Making himself known as he climbed onto Kimiko's shoulders, Dojo snorted at Naruto's comment. Yeah, no kidding. I've been having a very bad couple of days, Kimiko clarified a little before glaring at Naruto again. And being mugged didn't help. That's a fair point, Naruto admitted after a second, trying not to notice the glaring. Anyway, as I said, you're too stressed. When I used that thing I wasn't focusing on it, I was thinking about, well, I actually wasn't thinking about anything. That got Kimiko's attention. What do you mean? Putting his hand under his chin, Naruto thought about it. I don't really know. When I used that comb, it was like I just let the comb do its thing. But that still doesn't make any sense. Kimiko argued, not happy with his explanation. There's no way you can just use the tangle web comb like that. What can I say? I'm just lucky like that. But that's not fair. Sorry, princess, but life rarely is. Looking at his watch, Naruto checked the time before turning around. Look, I need to go now. Got a party need to get ready for tonight and I really don't want to be late for it. With that said, he turned and walked away, leaving Kimiko to think about what he just said. A minute later and Kimiko realized something. That jerk still has my money. The sun had set by the time Kimiko reunited with her friends. She decided to forego telling them about her encounter with Naruto, not wanting them to make fun of her again. If they knew that a random stranger managed to master the tangled web comb like it was nothing while she couldn't, Kimiko knew that they would never let her live it down. So they decided to continue their search for the golden tiger claws, following Dojo, who was still around Kimiko's shoulders, and his sniffing nose as they each ignored their rumbling stomachs. Dojo, Raymondi said with a frown. We've been going in circles. This is the third time we've passed that duck stall. It was true. Somehow, the gang had walked past the food stall they were robbed at, 3 times now. The cook saw them and each time he made sure to serve his customers the most delicious food, just to mess with the warriors. Seeing someone eating a Peking duck, Dojo could only whimper, like a dog wanting inside the house when it rains. Kimiko gave his head a small smack, making the dragon focus on the task at hand. I know it's here somewhere, Dojo said, his eyes darting to the food stall every now and then. If he could eat then that might help him find the Shengongwu. Or it would make him too stuffed and tired to do anything other than sleep. Could go either way. Stop drooling on my Shoulder and find the damn thing already. Kimiko nearly yelled, annoyed at how Dojo was salivating all over her nice jacket. Grabbing him by his long neck, Kimiko threw him away and onto the road. Hey, there is no need to be rude, Dojo said with his arms crossed. He then blinked and sniffed the air. Wait a moment. Dropping his nose to the ground, he sniffed around a little more before then grinning. I smell woo. It's this way. The group of 5 started running, following Dojo's lead as they ran down a street and past buildings. How much further? Raimundo asked, already tired of running. Not far, Dojo answered before accidentally running into a wall. We're here, he groaned out as he fell back. The others looked at the wall and then up towards the large palace that sat above them. The golden tiger claws are inside that palace? Omi asked. Even from where they stood, they could all see that the building was surrounded by guards. Getting in wouldn't be easy. How are we getting in there? Raimundo asked, rubbing his chin in thought. Maybe if we knock on the door and ask real nice like. Clay suggested, but they all knew he wasn't being serious. Hearing some noise, Kimiko went to the corner and peeked around. She saw dozens of people, each dressed up in suits and dresses as they walked up the steps towards the palace. I think there's a party inside, she said, getting the others to look as well. So we just walk in and join the party? Raimundo asked, liking his idea. That was when they all noticed that each guest was showing the guards their invitations. Or not, he finished, lamely. Looks like we're breaking in unless we can get an invite. I think I can manage that, Kimiko said as she pulled out her phone and speed dialed who she wanted. Moshi, Papa, it's Kimiko. Yeah, I need a few invites to the Emperor's Palace in Chufu City. What? No way. It's not gonna happen. Really? Do I have to? Alright. She hung up the phone with a defeated look, making the others curious as to what happened. Well, Clay asked. We're in, Kimiko said, getting the others to high-five each other. But there's a catch. A few purchases and a half-hour later, they were back at the palace. To get in they had to dress appropriately and Kimiko hated dressing up. Now she stood in a pink kimono with a yellow sash around her waist that had a big yellow bow attached to it on the back. To match it, she held a pink fan. She also had her hair done up, or at least what could be done within the time she had. To finish it, Kimiko attached the tangle web comb to her hair. All in all, she looked beautiful, but she was uncomfortable. What didn't help was that Raimundo, who was wearing a simple red kimono, was laughing at her. Clay stood behind him in a tea-green kimono and blue robes over it. Omi was just dressed like he always is. Shut it, Kimiko growled before they all started up the stairs. Raimundo couldn't stop laughing and others joined in when it became obvious Kimiko could barely walk up the stairs wearing sandals. Getting in was easy thanks to the invitations Kimiko had managed to get from her father. The guards they each invite a quick look over before letting them in. Thankfully the guards didn't check Clay's hat, otherwise, they would have been very confused about Dojo being there. Now that they were inside, they were surrounded by a crowd of well-dressed people. They were just talking amongst themselves while they ate and drank, enjoying the party. Okay, began Kimiko. Clay, you listen to Dojo and we'll follow you through here. Hopefully, we can just find the tiger claws and get out of here. I don't want to be wearing this any longer than I have to. Not hearing a reply, Kimiko frowned. Guys, turning, the dragon of fire widened her eyes as she saw that her friends had all abandoned her. Idiots, she snarled, quickly spotting them at the buffet, each stuffing their faces with whatever food they fancied. Even Dojo was joining in as he kept grabbing food and pulling it into Clay's hat. With a frown on her face, Kimiko decided to walk through the crowd. Who knows, maybe she would find the tiger claws just sitting out in the open. Maybe she could just take it when no one was looking, use it and leave her friends here while she returns to the temple. You know, I'm not surprised to see you here, princess. Kimiko quickly spun around and growled. Naruto stood behind her, still wearing that cocky grin he had from earlier. He too was dressed up for the party. The top half of his kimono was a dark orange while the bottom half was black. To finish it off, he wore a red sash. Kimiko hated to admit it, but he looked good in it. What are you doing here? Thankfully she didn't shout, but it didn't matter to Naruto. I told you I had a party to catch, didn't I? he said, cheekily. So what are you doing here? He asked as the two started walking around. Like I'm going to tell you, Kimiko huffed, using her fan to hide her scowl. Well, I'm gonna guess it has something to do with that woo thing you mentioned earlier, Naruto figured, and judging by the sharp look Kimiko sent to him, he was spot on. Stay out of this, Kimiko warned, trying to walk away. But with how her clothing was, plus the sandals, she tripped and fell to the floor. It wouldn't have hurt as she has been through a lot worse. But before she hit the floor, an arm appeared and grabbed her, quickly pulling her back to her feet. I don't need your help, Kimiko snapped, glaring at the blonde. Chuckling, Naruto just offered his arm. With how unstable you are, I think you do. She still didn't take his arm and tried to walk away again. Only after tripping again and bumping into a person, who then dropped their drink with a loud smash. Did Kimiko grumble as she took hold of Naruto's arm. See, was that so hard? Gripping his arm tighter, Kimiko made sure to dig her nails into him. Seeing that he winced, she eased off a little. Keep talking to me like that and your arm will be on the other side of the room from you, understand? Recognizing the fury in her eyes, Naruto quickly nodded. Yes, ma'am. Good. As annoyed as she was at what happened and what was currently happening, Kimiko reluctantly had to admit that holding onto Naruto was helping her not trip with every step. She did blush, though when she overheard someone comment that she and Naruto looked like a cute couple. However, what really wasn't helping the situation was that every time they passed someone, Naruto somehow managed to reach into their pockets and steal something. Noticing the look Kimiko was giving him, Naruto gave an innocent look and said, "What? Would you stop doing that?" "Doing what?" he asked, putting the wallet he just took into his robes to join the others before seeing a purse literally sticking out of a woman's handbag. How could he ignore something like that? He took it within a second and kept moving. "That," Kimiko said, pointing at Naruto and the purse in his hand. "Stop stealing." All Naruto did was stick his tongue out playfully before adding the purse to the rest. Deciding on a change of subject, he asked, "So what kind of woo are you after? A spoon that bends when you think about it? Or a hat that you can pull a rabbit out of?" Comparing powerful magical artifacts with cheap magic tricks was just insulting. But Kimiko let it slide for now. "Why should I tell you anything? You'll just want to steal it, probably." Naruto gave a fake gasp as his free hand went straight to clutching his chest. "You wound me with your words. I would never do such a thing." The fake hurt looks disappeared and was replaced with another mischievous grin. "Idiot," she muttered when she saw his grin. "My friends and I managed to track the Shengongwu to this palace. But that's as far as I got before they all got distracted by food." Even from where she and Naruto walked, the two could clearly see the others gorging themselves on food still. "Now I'm on my own looking for the damn thing." Looking thoughtful, Naruto glanced around at the random artifacts that were on display for the party. "What does the woo look like?" "Golden claws, that's all I know." It wasn't much for a description, but there was nothing here that matched it. No claws and nothing golden. Nothing here like that. Then again, everything up here is fake. That got Kimiko's attention. "What? Yeah, they put all the fake stuff up here for parties and keep the real ones a few floors down. This way the emperor flaunts his wealth while it's all safe." Naruto explained as if it was obvious. "What? You didn't know that?" No, I didn't." Blinking, Naruto muttered, thought everyone knew that." He then noticed the girl was staring at him while tapping her foot impatiently. "What's wrong? Take me there, now." Kimiko snarled, her patience wearing thin due to everything that was happening. Okay. Gently pulling Kimiko along, Naruto directed them towards some doors that would lead them downstairs. "What about your friends? Shouldn't they come with or something?" Looking at her friends who each bebed their stomachs from filling themselves, Kimiko frowned. "No, I can do this without them making comments every 5 seconds." She didn't need them around distracting her with insults or reminding her that she was a girl, as if that wasn't obvious. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto decided not to question it and lead the girl through the doors. Why was there only one guy guarding this place? Miko asked as she and Naruto walked into a dark room. Reaching over, the blonde turned on the lights, which showed that the room was filled with dozens of relics and statues. "And also explain to me how We got past him by walking up behind him and tapping him on the shoulder. The two were walking separately now. While eyeing a large gold statue, Naruto answered, "Well, there was only one guard Becca. The emperor probably thinks it's safe while a party is happening upstairs." It helped that the guy was half asleep and not paying attention. He shook his head at the statue, knowing it was too big and heavy to take with him. However, the jewelry case nearby was just calling to him. Stumbling a little as she walked, Kimiko grabbed onto a small case that was covered in dust. Opening it, she froze at seeing a plain old statue that was no bigger than her hand. "This is going to take too long," she muttered, wiping the dust from her hands. She ignored the bigger statues, knowing the Wu she was looking for was literally handheld. Closing the lid to the now empty jewelry case, Naruto spoke, "So, what were you talking about when we walked down here? You said something about that Omi guy being really sexist because of a book." "It's called, The Ancient Guide to Females," Kimiko growled out. "It's like a 200-year-old book that says things like girls should be in the kitchen or they should just be cleaning. It's insulting and Omi keeps quoting from it." Now walking beside Kimiko again, Naruto frowned. "Well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard," he said in agreement. "I say you need to get that book as soon as you can and just burn it. Things like that need to be burned." Nodding her head, Kimiko could only agree. The thought of setting that book on fire brought a smile to her face. Walking over the wooden floor, the fire dragon stopped when she heard the floor creak differently. "Hey, I think there's something here." Following her line of sight, Naruto crouched down and tapped on the floor with his knuckles. Hearing where the wood sounded different, he also noticed that it moved slightly. "Is that a handle?" "It's a secret exit," Naruto realized, didn't know the emperor had this. Pulling on the handle, the wooden floor came off and revealed stone stairs going underground. There was also an odd noise like someone was groaning coming from underground. "Wah! Are the odds the Wu you're looking for is down there?" "Only one way to find out." Looking back at the door, Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Last chance if you want to get your friends. We don't know what's down there." For a moment, Kimiko did wonder if she should get the others. But, just like before, she shook her head. "No, they can stay up there and eat. I'm finding this Wu." Without another word, Kimiko then started walking down the stairs, which was difficult with the sandals she was wearing. Naruto followed after, sticking close just in case she fell and he had to catch her. It took a few minutes to go down the stairs, but it eventually opened up to reveal a massive cave. How they were able to see in the dark when there was no source of light, Naruto would never know, but he wasn't going to question it. "What the hell is that?" he asked, hearing that groaning noise again. "It's Jack," Kimiko hissed, seeing the self-proclaimed evil boy genius. He was on the other side of the cave, and holding his stomach while whimpering for some reason. All Naruto could think though was, why did the boy look like a literal monkey? He even had a tail. A flash in the corner of her eye caught Kimiko's attention, making her gasp as she saw what it was. "And he's headed towards the tiger claws." Hearing his name, Jack looked and groaned. "I so don't need this right now," he muttered to himself, glaring at Kimiko. He didn't know who the blonde was, but he didn't care. "Jack bots," he called, with two robots appearing behind him. "Get rid of those two, now." The robots flew at Naruto and Kimiko. Once they were close enough, they produced a weapon from their chests and opened fire, firing lasers at the two. Naruto ducked under one blast while jumping away from another. "This is really annoying," he shouted out, grabbing a rock while he ducked. He threw it as hard as he could, nailing the first robot in the head. This caused the robot to shoot blindly as it started flying out of control. Or it slammed itself into the side of the cave and was destroyed. "That's one of those things down. That just leaves one," Kimiko said as she jumped towards the last robot. "Fire," she called out, spinning a little in the air. Naruto couldn't help but notice that she seemed to move a bit faster now, for some reason. Once Kimiko was right next to the robot, she spun again and kicked the head right off. The head fell and landed at Naruto's feet, who whistled at how impressive that was. Holding onto the short-circuiting robot, Kimiko forced it to fly down and towards the golden tiger claws. At the last second, she jumped and landed on the ground with her hand on the Wu, the robot crashing into the cliff. However, Jack had managed to reach the claws at the same time. What is happening now? Naruto wondered from where he stood above the two, noticing that the Wu was glowing brightly. Hearing something laugh next to him, he snapped his head round and widened his eyes as he saw what could only be described as a short purple ghost floating next to him. What the hell is that? He shouted, freaking out. He hated ghosts, always had. Chuckling at what was about to happen, Jack gave a toothy grin. Sweet, he said, Kimiko. I challenge you to a Shaolin showdown. Glaring at the boy, Kimiko sneered, name your game, Jack. A race across the bridges, he suggested, using his monkey staff to point at the stone bridges nearby. First one across wins. What'd you say? I say let's go. She accepted, Shaolin showdown. The entire cave began to shake as if an earthquake had started happening out of nowhere. Stumbling a little as he wasn't expecting it, Naruto was forced to hold onto the rocks as everything began to change. Everything was now tinted red and these odd signs with Chinese lettering floated everywhere. The stone bridges below cracked and the floors beneath them disappeared. Both Kimiko and Jack appeared on the bridges in a flash, neither looking surprised at what just happened. Gong Yi Tanpai. They both shouted, signaling the start of the showdown. Without wasting any time, Jack shot off towards the claws in the distance. Seeing that she was just wasting time by standing there, Kimiko went after him but stumbled. Growling, she lifted her dress and kicked off her sandals. Much better, she said as she started moving as quickly as she could. The bridge walkways were quite thin and they even crumbled in places, making it so that Kimiko was forced to make her way slowly. Above, Naruto wished he could help as he was forced to watch. Jack was jumping around easily while Kimiko was moving slowly. This wasn't going to end well. Come on, princess. You got this. Easier said than done, Kimiko muttered to herself but was thankful for the words of encouragement. If her friends were here, they would probably make fun of the situation or make a bet amongst themselves or something. A fair distance away now, Jack stopped and looked back, cackling at what he saw. Now this is too easy. All of a sudden, the bridges began to shake and move a little. Both Jack and Kimiko were knocked off, making Naruto shout in worry. He was relieved when he saw that the GIRL just managed to grab onto the ledge to keep from falling. Jack was using his tail and quickly pulled himself back up. Hey, that's a good look for you. Jack taunted, seeing Kimiko hold on for dear life just like in the last showdown. I hate this showdown, Kimiko muttered as she pulled herself back up, only for another quake to appear and knock her off her feet. At least this time she didn't fall off the side. I really hate this showdown. Jack just laughed and started swinging his way towards the tiger claws. Knowing there was no other way for her to reach the end in time, Kimiko took the comb in her hair, letting her hair fall down. Damn, Naruto thought, thinking that Kimiko looked good with her hair down. Please work, Kimiko begged in her head as she pointed the comb. Tangle web comb. The hairs fired out of the comb and shot towards Jack, who flinched as they neared him. But they turned and launched themselves back at Kimiko, who could only gasp, no. It wrapped around her entire body and covered her mouth. Unable to keep her balance, she fell onto her back and struggled against her bindings. Ha ha, Jack laughed as he hopped around. Just to make things worse for the trapped girl, Jack used his staff to break a nearby stalagmite which fell and smashed a part of Kimiko's bridge, making it more impossible for her if she freed herself. This Wu is mine. It didn't matter how much she struggled. Kimiko couldn't do anything to free herself. Why did she have to bring that stupid Wu with her? It never worked. And now Jack was going to win again. Kimiko. She heard Naruto shout. Just able to turn her head, she saw him looking at her with concern, but there was something else. He had this look of determination as if he still believed in her despite her current situation. Don't force it. Just let go. Quote. He was talking about how he managed to use the tangle web comb when she couldn't. Master Feng had said something similar yesterday, about staying calm and quieting the waters of her mind. Or something like that. Heeding their advice, Kimiko took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She stopped struggling and slowly relaxed her body. From where he stood, Naruto watched the girl lay still. He could see in the distance that Jack was getting closer to the goal, but he was showboating and taking his time. That will be his undoing if Kimiko can just free herself. Yes, Naruto grinned, seeing the hairs that tied the girl up were loosening. Landing next to the tiger claws, Jack could only cackle in glee. Not once but twice now he won at these showdowns and it was too easy. If this keeps up then he was gonna rule the world in no time. He reached for the Wu and said, "The tiger claws are finally mia." He was interrupted as a massive amount of hair appy red and snatched his monkey staff from him. He watched helplessly as the staff was brought to Kimiko, who freed herself and was smiling in victory. "Hey, that's mine," he gasped when he felt it spinning his head around. He watched in horror as his tail disappeared. His fangs also turned back to normal and so did his feet. No, it worked. Kimiko was ecstatic and it showed by the smile she wore. "Atta girl," Naruto shouted, cheering for her. Growling, Jack sneered, "Doesn't matter. I've still won this." He reached for the tiger claws, intent on winning this showdown and getting his monkey staff back. Just as his fingers were inches from the Wu, another quake appeared, knocking the tiger claws off from where it stood. "No!" he shouted again, diving after it. Running along the bridge, Kimiko was having the time of her life. The monkey staff gave her incredible agility so she moved perfectly, unhindered by the bridge shaking. Seeing that her bridge was destroyed up ahead, Kimiko just as she used the tangle web comb and used it to swing from the broken bridge all the way to the falling tiger claws. She snatched them in the air and swung back to the bridges as Jack continued falling and shouting. Landing perfectly, Kimiko stood and held the tiger claws in victory. "Damn," Naruto muttered, not only impressed but also thinking that she looked hot at how confident she was. Plus the smile she held looked incredible. He idly hoped he'll get to see more of it. With another quake, the cave they were in turned back to normal just as Kimiko swung her way back to him. "I knew you could do it," Naruto said once the girl stood in front of him. "Damn right I could do it," Kimiko said, placing the tangle web comb back in her hair. She tossed the tiger claws in the air and caught it, happy to have won. "The guys are gonna freak out when they see this." The two started walking back towards the stone steps that led them both down here in the first place. "I'd imagine they would treat you with a bit more respect now. Or else you'll leave them all tied up." Now that's an idea. Actually, Kimiko began to think of having Omi tied up and then burning that book of his in front of him. As the two walked, Kimiko looked at the man in front of her. "Thanks, by the way," she said. Seeing him look at her with a raised eyebrow, she continued, "for helping me with the tangle web comb, and for finding the tiger claws." "Ah, you didn't need my help," Naruto said. "I've only known you for a few hours and I know that you're too stubborn to let some Wu get the best of you." "Damn, I just sounded like B just now." Kimiko wondered who this B was but ignored it for now. "I do have a question though," Naruto said, getting Kimiko's attention again. "Did that Jack guy just fall to his death?" Laughing, Kimiko shook her head. "No, he's fine. You can't fall to your death in these showdowns. He's somewhere back in that cave being shouted at by Wuya." "Is Wuya that ghost that was following him around?" Naruto asked, shivering at the mention of the specter. "Yeah, Wuya is this witch that wants to rule the world," Kimiko explained with a shrug, not seeing Naruto shiver. "But because she's a ghost, she needs someone to do everything for her so she's stuck with Jack." The two continued talking as they left the cave. Back with Wuya, she just watched as Jack fell from a great height and landed right in front of her, kicking up a bunch of dust, but that didn't affect the ghost woman. "Idiot," she screeched, uncaring how hurt the boy was. "You had the tiger claws within reach. You should have won. You complete imbecile." While cursing his name and wondering why she had to be with an idiot like Jack, Wuya floated away. "Ow," Jack groaned out. He just laid there, unable to move due to the pain. He was forced to watch as a piece of stone cracked away from the ceiling and fell towards him. "Damn it," he said just before it landed on him. And of course, it landed on his crotch. The cave was filled with the echo of Jack's screams. And it sounded beautiful. Walking down the steps outside the palace, Naruto and Kimiko continued talking and laughing at what happened. "Hey, there she is," they heard someone shout. Looking, they saw Raimundo at the bottom of the steps, pointing at them. Clay and Omi ran over to him and waved at Kimiko, glad to see her again. "Where you been?" Clay asked once Kimiko and Naruto reached them. "We lost you in there." "You mean you guys were distracted by all the food in your mouths?" Kimiko said, a hand on her hip with a stern look on her face. If you guys weren't so hungry all the time then maybe you would have helped me find this. With a small shout, Kimiko lifted her hand and showed the tiger claws, almost grinning as she saw how shocked her friends all looked. You found it. They all shouted in shock. Even Dojo looked surprised as he was wrapped around Clay's hat. Omi was the first to break from his shock as he pointed a finger. Oh, I know how you found it. Girls always like shiny things, so that's how she found the golden tiger claws. He said, emphasizing, golden. It says so in my book. Seeing the book, Naruto twitched. The cover really did read, The Ancient Guide to Females. No wonder Kimiko sounded so pissed when she mentioned it. Who's this guy? Raimundo rudely asked, pointing his thumb at Naruto. He looks kinda familiar. There was just something about the blonde hair that looked familiar, as if he had just seen this guy somewhere. I'm a friend of Princess, Naruto said, grinning as Kimiko scowled at the name. She really didn't like it for some reason. I helped her find those claws while you guys were busy. He might have sounded a bit accusatory, but the three guys really did ignore what they came here for and also ignored Kimiko. Trying her best to ignore Naruto calling her a princess, Kimiko just yawned. She felt really tired all of a sudden. Must be from being relieved from all the stress she felt the past few days. Can we go home now? I need some sleep. Jumping down from Clay's hat, Dojo also gave a yawn as he patted his bulging stomach. Yeah, I'm gonna sleep good tonight from all that food. Give me a minute and I'll give you all a lift. What? Naruto said, raising an eyebrow as he looked at the dragon. You're gonna give a lift for 4 people. This I gotta see. Oh, you're gonna see. Dojo said, feeling insulted by Naruto's tone. As he usually did, Dojo quickly grew in size until he was towering over everyone. Naruto could feel his jaw slack as the tiny gecko was now bigger than a house. Well, what do you have to say now? Dojo asked in pride. It was always satisfying to see someone surprised at how he changes size like this. Picking his jaw off the floor, Naruto looked at the laughing Kimiko. It was fun hanging with you. Gotta say I hope I get to see you again. Kimiko was surprised by this, and before she could reply, Naruto turned and cupped his hands around his mouth to sound louder. And I'm still calling you Gecko. I'll show you a gecko. Naruto ran for it, avoiding the massive tail that slammed down where he stood. All 4 dragons, and the one literal dragon, all watched him run in the distance with a laugh. He's a weird guy, Clay commented with a chuckle, I like him. Yeah, he's alright, Kimiko agreed before adding, for a thief, at least. Wah, it's him, Raimundo shouted, now realizing why the blonde looked familiar. Why didn't he recognize the guy earlier? He is the only blonde in the city and they were on the lookout for a blonde earlier. He stole our money. Clay and Omi looked back towards where Naruto was running but couldn't see him anymore. I am afraid that he is gone, Omi said. Hey, Kimiko, Clay said, making the Asian girl look at him. I think there's something on your back. Hearing this, Kimiko tried to reach for whatever it was, but it was just out of reach. Here you go, Clay said, taking it off of her and then handing it to her. She read it out loud, for everyone to hear. Dear Princess, thanks for all the free stuff from your bag, love Naruto. There was also a small drawing of Naruto doing the peace sign. My bag, Kimiko said and ran off to where she hid her backpack. Running to a nearby tree, she looked up and saw her white and orange bag with wings hanging from a high branch so no one could see or reach it. Jumping from branch to branch, it only took Kimiko a few seconds to reach her bag. She ripped it open and stared. Naruto didn't take anything, like he said in the note. In fact, he had put the wallets he had stolen from the others in her bag along with her purse. Well, Raimundo asked from the bottom of the tree, did that bastard take anything? No, he didn't, Kimiko said back before she saw something else. There was a slip of paper in her bag that wasn't there before. Opening it, she smiled as she read Naruto's phone number and email address. Maybe she would be seeing him again. Kimiko, please hurry, Omi begged as he and his fellow monks stood out in the training yard of their temple. It has been a couple of days since Kimiko had won the golden tiger claws and they had the chance to practice using them, much to their excitement. I cannot wait to see the tiger claws in action. Rolling her eyes, Kimiko just ignored him as Clay put the claws on her hand. Since she brought them back to the temple, Omi would not stop talking about them and how much he wanted to use them. Just cool your jets, Omi, Kimiko said, examining the Wu. It consisted of a Odin vambrace with fur around the wrists and straps to hold it in place. At the end it had 3 golden claws, which gave the Wu the obvious name. So, let me get this straight, Raimundo said, hand on chin. These claws can transport you anywhere in the world, right? That's the story, Clay agreed, already knowing exactly where he was opening a portal to. Me first, Raimundo then said, quickly snatching the Wu off of Kimiko's hand. Wah hey, Kimiko shouted, her mind registering what just happened. Raimundo, give that back, I won those so I get to go first. Like a taunt, Raimundo put the claws on and pointed them at the angered girl. Yeah, but I bet you were going to go someplace boring with these. I've got a better idea. Before Kimiko could say or do anything, Raimundo raised the Wu and said, Golden Tiger Claws. He then slashed them down, tearing open a hole in space and time, and jumped through as it closed behind him. With a growl, Kimiko crossed her arms. I was going to someplace nice, she muttered, defending herself to no one in particular. Clay, who was standing next to her, asked, where were you planning on teleporting to? Up that mountain, Kimiko admitted, with a blush as she pointed to said mountain nearby. Clay and Omi wisely decided not to comment on her choice. Several minutes later and the portal opened up in front of the 3 monks, surprising them. Raimundo stepped through, now wearing sunglasses and the Brazilian flag as a cape, as well as a grin that Kimiko really wanted to punch. Where were you? She grounded out through clenched teeth. Visited Rio, Raimundo answered. Big game going on. Managed to get a great view from the front row. He held the claws up, making sure that Omi couldn't reach them before asking, whose turn is it? I'll have a go, Clay said, catching the claws when Raimundo tossed them to him. Golden Tiger Claws, he yelled, creating his own portal to jump through. He was faster than Raimundo as he returned within a couple of minutes. And, unsurprisingly, he was holding a plate with a big steak on it. Hoey. No place like Billy Bob's Texas-style all-you-can-eat buffet. Omi ran up to Clay but stopped when Kimiko moved faster, taking back the claws before he could get to it. I should have gone first, she said, glaring at Raimundo who still held his grin. And where are you gonna go? Raimundo asked as he took off his sunglasses. Someplace interesting. Kimiko wanted to give a retort, but the words died in her mouth. The teasing from moments ago had ruined her idea of going to the top of the nearby mountain to check out the view. Now she needed to think of going someplace interesting. Shutting her eyes, she raised her arm and yelled, Golden Tiger Claws. Slashing them down, she didn't even hesitate and jumped through the portal. When it was closed, Raimundo gave his friends a grin. A month of chores says she still chose someplace boring. You're on, Omi and Clay said, shaking Raimundo's hand. Laying down in his hotel room, Naruto felt himself relax after a long day of travel. He had to get away from Chufu City as he had stolen a lot of stuff and they were now looking for a THIEF that got away with some treasures from the palace. So, now he had a good haul and he only needed to wait a few more days before he can sell anything to make some money through his contact and to leave the city. And speaking of contacts, he frowned as he reread a message that he received on his phone yesterday. Hey, Whiskers. Did you miss me? I sure missed you while I've been away but I see that you've been busy as usual. I'll be in touch soon cause I have a lot of fun planned for just the 2 of us. Just like the good old days. Love, your favorite kitten. His ex-girlfriend always managed to get his number no matter how many times he changed phones. It was annoying and, if he was being honest, creepy and terrifying at the same time. Then there was also the fact that, when Kitten did show her face, it usually ended up with him in trouble and with a headache. The last time Naruto had even seen Kitten was last year and it ended up with him being handcuffed to the Thinker statue in Paris whilst only in his underwear. That was not a fun time for him. But it was fun for the tourists that took a lot of pictures. Putting his phone down, Naruto went back to relaxing as he tried not to think about his old girlfriend and the potential chaos she'll bring with her. Instead, he tried to think about other things. Like the amount of money he'll get from his latest haul, or where he might go next. Or even the strange portal that opened up above him. Wait a minute. Blinking, Naruto realized he really was looking into a portal for some reason. He could only stare, not understanding. What was happening before something fell from the portal and landed on him. And that object made sure to land with their knee colliding directly with his groin. Ow! Kimiko groaned, wondering what she landed on and why it felt like brick wall. Rubbing her head, she looked up and widened her eyes as she saw Naruto's own staring back at her. She also saw that she had landed on top of him as he lay in bed without a shirt and that her head had landed on his chest. Now that she had a clear view of his muscles, she could see why it felt like a brick wall. While Naruto wasn't buff, he was well defined. If Kimiko was paying any attention, she would have heard a voice in the back of her mind yell out, "Yum! Could you please get off me?" Naruto gasped out, breaking Kimiko out of her thoughts as she also saw how she landed. Jumping back, Kimiko just grinned apologetically while her face still glowed red. Sorry. Now that she was off of him, Naruto cupped his crotch and rolled around as he groaned in pain. He even fell off the bed, but he didn't notice nor care at that moment. That's one way to make an entrance, Naruto commented after a few minutes, now able to stand back up again, albeit shakily. So, mind explaining why and how you showed up like that? The golden tiger claws, Kimiko said after a moment, openly staring at Naruto as he was still shirtless. It was distracting and it was starting to make her drool. Damn it. Raising an eyebrow at how the girl was acting, Naruto looked down to see what she was staring at before grinning. He then moved forward, his grin growing. As he saw Kimiko's eyes stare directly at his chest, not even bothering to hide the fact that she was. Once he was close enough, he leaned forward a little and said, "See something you like?" It was like her brain just decided to shut down and was attempting to reboot. That was how Kimiko felt as she struggled to tear her eyes away. Finally, by some miracle, she managed to look away and grabbed a pillow off the bed before throwing it, hitting Naruto in the face. "Put a shirt on," she said, turning around so that she didn't have to look at him, even though she really wanted to. "I'll take that as a yes," Naruto laughed. Walking over to his belongings to pull out a shirt. Grumbling about handsome bastards, Kimiko waited for him to put the shirt on. While she waited those few seconds, a small light caught her attention. "So why are you here anyway?" Naruto asked as he looked over at the girl. "And why are you looking at my phone?" "Who's kiddin'?" Kimiko asked with narrowed eyes, completely ignoring Naruto's question. For some reason, Naruto had the sense that he was treading on very thin ice and he wasn't exactly sure why. Shrugging, he answered, "Just someone I once knew. I wouldn't worry about her." From the look of the message, Kimiko knew there was more to it than that. Who is she and what does she mean by the good old days? "She's my ex," Naruto then admitted with a sigh. Seeing that Kimiko wasn't going to drop the subject. "Her name is Ashley. I broke up with her a couple of years ago and it did not go well. She had always been a bit possessive and ever since our breakup, she tries to win me back and contacts me whenever she can, although this is the first message in several months. In the good old days. Ashley and I used to work together, stealing and pickpocketing. Actually that was one of the reasons I broke up with her. She was always wanting to go after a bigger score which kept getting riskier. I realized I was better off so I left her." Without Naruto noticing, Kimiko took a small sigh of relief. Ever since their first meeting a couple of days ago, the two had messaged back and forth and even called the other a few times. Mostly they just talked about their day. With Naruto gloating about what he stole and Kimiko scolding him, and Kimiko talking about her training or her friends and Naruto saying that it sounded fun. Thanks to all these talks, Kimiko would be lying if she said she didn't gain a small crush on Naruto. Plus it helped that he was very hot. And seeing him shirtless a moment ago just added to that fact. Hearing a noise, Kimiko realized her own phone was ringing. Tossing Naruto his, Kimiko looked at hers and saw it was Raimundo who texted her to hurry up as another woo just revealed itself and that they were going to leave without her if she didn't hurry back. "I have to go," she said reluctantly, "Shaolin business." "Go kick some ass then," Naruto said, making the girl smirk. "And let me know how it goes." "Golden tiger claws," Kimiko called out, slashing the air to open a portal. Before she jumped through, she gave Naruto a two-finger salute and a smile. "Talk to you later," she said as soon as she jumped through. The portal closed and left Naruto alone. Once she was gone, Naruto immediately ran to the fridge and pulled out a pack of ice before placing them on his crotch. Oh, holy mother of crap, that's better, he sighed blissfully. Still feeling a large ache from how Kimiko landed on him. It will be a little while before he could be comfortable enough to rest. Landing next to her friends, Kimiko smiled apologetically to them. Sorry I took so long, hey. She had tried to apologize but shouted out as Omi snatched the golden tiger claws from her the second she landed. You do that again and I'll use you as a bowling ball in the next showdown. Finally, it is my turn, Omi announced, either not hearing Kimiko's threat or he was choosing to ignore it. I have just enough time to test this woo before we go. Just as he raised the claws, Master Feng caught his wrist. I'm afraid now is not the time, my young apprentice, he said, before letting Omi go and opening the Shengongwu scroll. The Wu, that had revealed itself as none other than the changing chopsticks, a wondrous Shengongwu. The Shaolin dragons all leaned over and looked at the scroll as the figure in it used the Wu and shrink down. They can shrink you down to the size of a grain of rice. If we are lucky, then I can use the golden tiger claws in a showdown and win the changing chopsticks, Omi said, completely confident in his abilities. Let us remove the lead. Get the lead out, Kimiko corrected with a roll of her eyes. That too. So the Wu is on Easter Island? Raimundo asked as he and all the others were on dojo. Flying through the sky at good speed. He could see the island in the distance and had to ask to make sure. The place with all those giant stone heads, right? Omi gave his friends a perplexed look as he spoke. But I thought Easter was about the chocolate and the eggs and the magical bunnies. That's Easter the holiday, Kimiko explained. Easter Island is an island with, as Raimundo said, giant stone heads. Some guy named it that because he discovered it during the holiday. It's funny the random facts you remember from school, especially when you thought they'd never be useful at any point. Clay, who was sitting behind everyone, moved to catch his hat as the rushing wind blew it off. By the way, Kimiko, he said, getting her attention, where did you go when you used the tiger claws? I couldn't see you at the top of the mountain. Huh, that's where you went. Raimundo laughed. I knew you'd go someplace boring. Clay and Omi are so doing my chores this month. I didn't go to that mountain. Kimiko shouted back. I, dropped in on a friend. He was really surprised to see me. Now that caught Raimundo's attention but, before he could comment of what Kimiko had said, Dojo suddenly took a nosedive. And here we are, he called out. Easter Island, home of one hidden Shengongwu. Landing on the ground, he let the four off of him before shrinking down and climbing up and onto Omi's shoulder. The group surrounded by giant carved stone heads. I can already tell you that the Wu is somewhere nearby, he said as he scratched his skin, any closer and I'll be breaking out in a bad rash. With a look of disgust that she and her friends shared, Kimiko commented, Ew. Didn't need to hear that. There was a loud crash and the familiar sound of a girl screaming from somewhere nearby. Catching each of the dragon's attention. Following it, they hid behind a large stone head and peeked around it. They saw Jack Spicer, holding the destroyed remains of his robots with Uya cackling next to him while a young woman in a cat suit walked away, followed by 3 white kittens. Whilst Kimiko, Omi, and Raimundo commented on who that person was and what they were wearing, the cat woman called out to Jack. Hey, these your sticks. From where they were hiding, the dragons could see that the cat woman did indeed find the changing chopsticks, which were hiding in the nose of one of the stone heads. Not wanting to lose the Shengongwu, Omi ran ahead from his friends and touched the Wu just as the cat woman also touched them. Seeing who it was, Wuya gasped. Omi, IWILL not allow you to escape with the Shengongwu. Omi said, ignoring how the woman hissed at him, I challenge you. Name please. He finished, lamely. Catnap, the woman introduced. Catnap, Omi repeated with a nod. I challenge you to a Shaolin showdown. What happened? Dojo asked as he looked around in confusion. I blinked and missed it. His comment wasn't an exaggeration. That showdown might have been the fastest in history. As soon as Omi called out with, Gongyi Tanpai, Catnap used the fist of Tebagong that Jack allowed her to have. She punched the ground, making Omi fall over and drop the golden tiger claws that he wagered. Catnap then caught the claws and used them to tag Omi, ending the game seconds after it started. Catnap held all three Wu and happily glow. Ate it as she walked away from the monks and back towards Jack and Wuya. Well done, Catnap. Well done. Wuya congratulated, not only pleased to have won a powerful Wu but also because of how quickly the blonde woman won them. My dear girl, there is much evil I can teach you. If you come with me, then we can rule the world together. What? Jack shouted, dropping parts of his robots. One showdown and he was already being replaced. He couldn't believe it. Jack's been fired, Raimundo said with a laugh, finding the evil boy genius's misfortune funny. Ah, nice offer but no thanks, Catnap replied, shocking Jack and Wuya. As well as the monks as they thought she would go for it. I don't want to rule the world. Well, not with you at least. You're just too bossy and Jack. Too whiny. Catnap then surprised everyone as she tossed the fist of Tebagong and the changing chopsticks to Jack. Now, if you don't mind, I'll be keeping these. They accessorize really well, she said, keeping the golden tiger claws for herself. The monks stood to the side, watching what was happening. It was actually funny watching Wuya try and fail to bring someone over to the Halen side. Looks like Jack gets to keep being Wuya's sidekick. Clay commented. I'm not the sidekick. Jack whined, with everyone giving him a look that screamed, really? Catnap just rolled her eyes at Jack's whining. Yeah, I'm just gonna go get a few things to surprise my boyfriend. Haven't seen him in, like, a year. Rearing her arm Catnap shouted, golden tiger claws. The Wu activated as she slashed the air to create a portal. See ya, losers. With a wave, the girl jumped through and left everyone on the island. It didn't take long until Wuya was screaming at Jack, saying that it was all his fault that he had lost a powerful Shen Gong Wu. Knowing there was nothing else that can be done, the Shaolin monks all just decided to leave in hopes that they can win the Wu back in the next showdown. A few hours later, whistling a tune to himself, Naruto was checking his phone and was happily seeing a large sum of money being deposited into one of his several secure and untraceable bank accounts. This is definitely getting me closer. Just a few more scores, Naruto thought while putting his phone away. Honestly, if it wasn't for Kimiko and that whole Shaolin fight thing, he wouldn't have Fu Nd the secret tunnel that let him get away with stealing the Emperor's jewels. He wondered if he should get Kimiko something as a small thank you. There was a slashing noise from behind and Naruto turned. Seeing the same portal that Kimiko opened before literally falling on top of him, knees first. His nads still ached, especially when he tries to sit down. Believing that this called for a prank, Naruto grinned before quickly moving and hiding behind a nearby dumpster. He didn't have enough time to set up one of his better pranks, so he was going for the classic jump out and scare prank. Oh, this is going to be fun, Naruto thought, carefully peeking around the corner of the dumpster. I'm gonna scare Kimiko, she's probably gonna scream and then chase me around while shouting about how she's gonna kill me. And then we'll both laugh. Who the hell is that? Naruto's grin slowly fell as he watched the person jump out of the portal and for it to close behind them. It only took a glance realized that this person wasn't Kimiko as they were taller and dressed like a tall black cat. When they turned around, their eyes scanning the area, Naruto's eyes widened in horror and he quickly hid more behind the dumpster. Trying his best not to make a sound. The fuck? How did she find me? And why does she have the golden tiger claws? Whiskers. Catnap called out, a dangerous smile on her lips. Where are you, Tilda? I know you're here, Tilda. She continued calling out in a sing-song tone, ignoring the looks the random people were giving her. Naruto refused to move. He did not want to take the chance that she would see him. If she has those claws, then that means Kimiko lost them in those weird showdowns. Damn it, that means it doesn't matter where I hide, Ashley can always find me with those things. He needed help and quickly. Slowly and carefully, he pulled his phone out from his pocket and quickly began calling Kimiko, knowing she and her friends will want those claws back. Standing in the middle of a dark room, Master Feng stood calmly with a small jade elephant on the floor in front of him. He didn't have to look around to know his 4 students were slowly approaching. He could hear Omi moving around on the roof above him while Kimiko, Raimundo, and Clay surrounded him, each either staring at him or the elephant. They were being smart about this, Master Feng noted, as they made sure he had no way to escape. Not that he was going to. Predictably, Omi attacked first as he jumped from the ceiling. Instead of attacking him, Omi instead dove for the elephant that Master Feng kicked up and held. Too obvious, he said to the bald boy. Turning, he blocked a kick from Kimiko as she began her assault. Without moving from his spot, Master Feng tossed the elephant in the air and grabbed Kimiko's arms before throwing her away. Catching the elephant again, Master Feng placed it gently on the floor while saying, "Perhaps you do not wish to win." Seeing Raimundo charging at him, Master Feng took a stance and waited until the boy was close enough. As soon as he was within reach, he kicked Raimundo's feet out from under him, flipped him, and then threw him away. Just as he did this, Master Feng looked at the elephant to see Clay's lasso wrapped around it. "Gotcha!" Clay cheered, reaching for the rope to pull the elephant towards him. However, his plan was foiled as Master Feng pulled out a small hammer from his robes and smashed the elephant to pieces. "Well, that's plumb disappointing," Clay muttered as he managed to pull away a piece of the elephant. "He broke it. Can he do that?" Raimundo asked, not understanding why that happened. He and the others were challenged by Master Feng to retrieve the elephant from him. At no point were they told that it would be smashed if they managed to get their hands on it. "Master," Omi began, confusion obvious in his voice. "How could we win such a contest?" Putting the hammer away into his robes, Master Feng smoothed his clothing before answering. "You couldn't," he said, as if it was obvious. "Your goal, my young dragons in training, was to win. While mine is simply not to lose. That is victory enough for me." He then walked over to the side of the room, grabbing a bucket of water and a scrubbing brush. "Now, I believe we agreed that you would all clean the temple floor if you lost." They all groaned at this, knowing that it wasn't going to be easy as the inside of the temple was a large room and that it was going to take hours to clean every inch of it. By some unknown miracle, Kimiko's phone began to ring. Taking it out of her pocket, she smiled as she saw it was Naruto that was calling. "Who's phoning you?" Raimundo asked, glancing over the girl's shoulder to read the name. "Ah, you boyfriend again. You guys call each other like 4 times a day." "Boyfriend?" Master Feng blinked, only now just hearing of this. "Yeah, when we were going after the golden tiger claws, we met a guy named Naruto," Clay began to explain. "He's a nice guy. He stole our wallets," Raimundo grumbled, still annoyed at that happening. He wasn't going to forgive the guy that easily, even if he helped Kimiko get a powerful woo. Rolling her eyes, Kimiko shoved Raimundo away from her. "Naruto gave those back and he isn't my boyfriend," she said, having heard this joke several times already. She looked at her teacher and continued explaining. "I bumped into him when we were looking for the golden tiger claws at the Emperor's palace. Well, I say we were looking for it when it was just me." At this she gave her 3 friends a pointed look, with all 3 trying to look as innocent as possible. At least Clay looked apologetic. "He helped me find the tiger claws and master the tangle web comb. We've talked a few times since then, that's all." "More like flirted," Raimundo continued grumbling, this time getting a hard punch to the shoulder. "Ow, thanks for the dead arm," he whined, rubbing his now sore appendage. Now understanding, Master Feng smiled at Kimiko. "Well, whether you are in a relationship or not, I am happy to see you have another friend. He sounds like a kind person," the master said, getting Kimiko to smile back in appreciation. "Oh, and Kimiko." "Yes, master. I believe you should answer your phone. It has been ringing this whole time." "Oh, right." Eyes widening as she realized her phone was still ringing. Kimiko fumbled with it and answered it, walking to the other side of the room for a little more privacy. "Hey, Naruto. Didn't know you were going to call so soon. Everything okay?" "About time you answered," Naruto cried out, and Kimiko could clearly hear that he was running. She would have yelled at him for being rude like that, but he continued shouting, "You have to help me. I'm about to be kidnapped." Blinking, Kimiko wondered if she heard that right. "Kidnapped? What's going on?" "Crazy X. She found me and now she's trying to catch me." "Wait, that Ashley girl. How did she find you?" Kimiko loudly asked, getting her friend's attention. She was now worried for her friend's safety. The others came closer and could clearly hear the conversation because of how loud Naruto was shouting. There was a loud grunt from the phone and a couple of curses before Naruto answered. "She used those golden tiger claws you had. Now please get over here. She's got these kittens now and they're extremely feral. Almost like they're genetically altered super kittens or something. Oh shit. Got you. Now, while I love playing hard to get with you, Whiskers, I've got a whole lot of fun planned. Save me. There was a beep and the phone call ended. Master Feng, Omi, Clay, and Raimundo all took a big step back as the phone in Kimiko's hand shattered due to her grip tightening on it. Dojo, she yelled, with the small green dragon appearing. He didn't even get a chance to greet anyone as Kimiko grabbed him. Hurry and grow. I need to get back to Chufu City, now. Can't breathe. Life. Flashing. Before. Eyes. Mostly. Disappointing. Dojo barely gasped out with how tight Kimiko gripped his throat as he was taken outside, with the others following. The second he was let go, he immediately grew so that Kimiko wouldn't hurt him. She would have climbed on Dojo until Clay threw a lasso over her, pulling her back to the ground. Let me go, she screamed in rage, struggling against her bindings. The rope was just out of reach from her hands and she couldn't get out of it. Master Feng stepped forward, placing his hands on Kimiko's shoulders to get her to focus on him. She snapped her eyes to his and he could see the anger and fear in her eyes. Please, calm yourself, Master Feng softly said. If this person not only has the tiger claws, as well as your friend, then I doubt either will be in that city. They could be anywhere in the world right now. Kimiko knew that Master Feng was right. The man was rarely wrong. I can't just sit here. I need to find Naruto. She pleaded, looking imploringly at her teacher. You will have your chance to save young Naruto soon, Master Feng said as he released Kimiko from Clay's lasso. But you must be patient. It will not do your friend any good if you rush out there. Remain here until you and your fellow dragons can come up with a plan of action. The 4 dragons in training were all quiet as they cleaned the floor of the temple. No one knew what to say as Kimiko scrubbed the floor in anger. She couldn't believe that she was cleaning when she should be trying to save Naruto. But she also knew there wasn't much else she could do. Master Feng suggested that they all clean to try and distract themselves, but it was barely working. Of course he had said to Kimiko that she didn't have to clean, but she insisted on helping. Wanting to keep busy or else she would go crazy. When I get my hands on Catnap, I'm gonna rip out all her claws and wring her scrawny neck. Kimiko seethed, unknowingly scrubbing the floor with all her strength. She was actually starting to scrub through the floor tile, but she never noticed. She still couldn't believe that it was Catnap of all people that was Naruto's ex. Kimiko. What? Kimiko snapped, turning and glaring at Omi, who flinched at her shout. Realizing what she just did, Kimiko sighed and gave the bald boy a small smile. I'm sorry, Omi. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. Are you okay? Omi then asked, concerned for his friend. It was obvious that Naruto's kidnapping was really affecting Kimiko. He just hoped that they could all go rescue the thief soon. Feeling an ache in her wrist from how she was scrubbing, Kimiko sighed and sat back while rubbing the wrist. I've been better. And I will be when Catnap shows herself. We save Naruto and take back the wish she won from us. There was a fire in her eyes, which just goes to show that you do not mess with Kimiko's friends. You've got a news alert. A ping sounded off from Kimiko's laptop, getting everyone's attention to the piece of tech that was sitting at the side of the room. They all went over to it, with Kimiko quickly reaching it first and typing several keys. I found her, she yelled, surprising the others. Seeing their questioning looks, Kimiko began to explain as she continued tying. I set up alerts on my phone and laptop for anyone in the news matching Catnap's description. Right now there is a breaking news on how there is a girl in a cat costume robbing stores and then disappearing. So, does it also tell you where she is right now? Raimundo asked, trying to peek over Kimiko's shoulder. She's at the Mall of the World. So how does this shirt look on me? Catnap asked while holding a red top up to herself and checking it in the mirror. I don't care. Tossing the shirt away, Catnap then picked up a pair of torn jeans. What about these? I think they look good. I don't care. Pouting, Catnap threw the jeans onto a pile of clothing she was definitely keeping. You know, you could actually put some effort into this. I take you someplace nice and all you do is sit there and look annoyed. Least you could do is throw a compliment or something at me every now and then. Giving the clothes store a quick scan, Catnap decided that she had gotten everything she wanted from here and used the golden tiger claws to send her pile of lots to the other pile of stuff she had in the middle of the mall. Twitching from her comment, Naruto continued glaring at his ex from where he sat. His feet and hands were tied up and he couldn't move. It was annoying that Ashley, or Catnap as she likes to be called now, knew his tricks and made sure to keep his hands away from his pockets. Another reason he couldn't move was because of the sleeping kitten on his lap. While he normally loved animals and would never hurt one, he really wanted to throw Catnap's kittens off a cliff and send them back to hell where they probably came from. He wouldn't actually do that, but the more the kittens attack and hurt him, the more tempted he was. "So, what's with the cat outfit?" he asked while the two moved to another store. He was walking ahead of her and Catnap was pushing him, making sure he couldn't get away. "Last time I saw you, you weren't dressed like this." Get the idea from that comic about a woman dressed as a cat that was trying to impress a guy dressed as a bat. For some reason, Naruto couldn't remember the name of the comic series, but it was just on the tip of his tongue. "You don't like." Catnap purred into Naruto's ear, making him scowl at how close she was. She even had a claw gently rubbing his cheek. "I picked this outfit out just for you. You already know this," Naruto said, turning and glaring at his ex who just smiled at him. Claw still at his cheek. "But I never really liked cats." A small cut appeared on Naruto's cheek because Catnap scratched him for his comment. To his credit, Naruto didn't flinch and he managed to maintain his glare. "You never could appreciate the finer things in life," Catnap muttered before cupping Naruto's chin. "Ah, but I could never stay mad at my whittle whiskers." "Fire!" Kimiko roared as she appeared from nowhere, landing a harsh kick to Catnap's side. The cat woman was launched off her feet but managed to luckily land on the pile of shopping she had stolen for herself. Snarling, Catnap quickly managed to get back to her feet and glared at the girl that interrupted her date. "I thought cats were supposed to land on their feet." Kimiko cheekily grinned, hissing. Catnap then gave her own grin and called out, "Golden tiger claws." She swiped and created a portal that she quickly jumped into. Kimiko narrowed her eyes and looked around but didn't see her opponent. Hearing the sound of a portal opening above her, Kimiko didn't even need to look and instead dodged to the side, avoiding the sharp claws that scratched the ground. "Did you forget? A cat has her claws as well." The two began to fight the other, while Naruto began to struggle with his bindings. He was incredibly thankful that Kimiko had come to save him, and if she was here, then that probably meant her friends were here as well. He glanced around with a raised eyebrow, not seeing the three boys anywhere. "Where are they?" Naruto wondered before shaking his head to concentrate on getting free. However, he stopped when some rope managed to appear and be tied around his ankles. "Oh, I just know this is going to hurt." "Gotcha," Clay shouted as he yanked the rope from the floor below. "How did you manage to get the rope to him from down here?" Raimundo questioned as he stood next to Clay, looking confused. Of course, Clay didn't answer, but there were a few crashing noises and sound of glass being shattered before Clay saw Naruto fly over the edge of the upper floor. "I got him," Clay said as held his arms out to catch the blonde. He misjudged where Naruto would land, though, as he instead managed to crash into Raimundo, the two landing heavily on the floor. Naruto practically had swirls in his eyes as he was dazed from the crashing and the landing. "I'll do it," he said in a dazed manner. "I'll be Hokage one day. Get a hold of yourself." Raimundo grunted, pushing Naruto off of him. He then smacked Naruto across the cheek, allowing the blonde to regain his senses. Ow! Even though he was still restrained, Naruto glared at Raimundo and returned the slap with one of his own. Back on the upper floor, Catnap ducked under a flying kick from Kimiko before noticing that someone was missing. "What?" she growled before grabbing Kimiko, who had tried to kick her again and throwing her away. Reaching around, Catnap grabbed her bag and opened it to allow her three mutated kittens to jump out. "You three know what to do. Go make sure he doesn't escape." If the kittens could salute, then they would have. Instead, they each gave a small meow before running off in the direction Naruto was grabbed. Placing his lasso back to his belt, Clay just shook his head as he saw both Naruto and Raimundo slapping each other. He was about to step between them and stop them until he heard a small meow coming from behind. Turning, Clay clearly saw three white kittens slowly approaching him with evil red eyes and were hissing at him. "Ah, nice kitties." The large bow. White tried, but that just seemed to annoy the cats as stalked closer. Gojo, who hid beneath Clay's hat, poked his head out. I think these might be those genetically altered super kittens we heard Naruto crying about over the phone. He commented, smelling something off from the kittens. The three kittens then lunged at Clay, who gave a loud yelp and ducked, with the felines missing him. Ha! Raimundo cheered, managing to push Naruto away. His cheer was short-lived as three kittens latched onto his back with very sharp claws. Aahhhh. He then screamed, running around while trying to reach around to get the cats off of him. Naruto had seen what happened and began laughing. That's what you get for slapping me. Dusting himself off, he walked over to Clay and began doing some quick stretches. Aang tied up like that made him a little stiff. Right, so where's Ashley? I really need to make her understand that I'm done with her and she needs to move on already. I think she and Kimiko are still going at it, Clay replied, pointing a thumb to the upper floor where they heard the girls yelling and glass breaking. Should we help him? Clay then asked, indicating to the struggling Raimundo, who was still running around like a madman. Shrugging, Naruto started jogging to the nearby stairs. I'm sure he can take care of himself. Holding the monkey staff that she had brought, Kimiko used it to try and attack Catnap, but the blonde girl pulled out her own collapsible staff. Neither managed to land a blow on the other as they kept dodging or blocking the other's attack. Finally having enough, Catnap used her golden tiger claws and disappeared into a portal. Kimiko stood still, waiting for another portal to open only to realize one had opened above her. She did not have time to react as dozens of heavy boxes fell out of the portal and landed on her, knocking her to the ground. Water! Omi called, running at Catnap to help his friend. He threw a punch and a kick, but Catnap dodged both, kicked his own legs out from under him. The next thing he knew, he was being tied up with rope that the girl somehow got her hands on. Darn! Omi groaned out, unable to free himself. Ashley! Naruto called out, running at Catnap, who turned in surprise, her three kittens appearing and climbing her to get back into her pack. Once he was close enough, he reached out to grab the claws, to get them away from her. Realizing what he was going to grab, Catnap moved her arm, which only allowed Naruto to grab onto her wrist. The two now struggled against the other, with Ashley trying to keep the Wu out of Naruto's hands. That does it, she screamed out, pulling her arm free even as Naruto had a hold on her other arm. Golden Tiger Claws, she activated, slashing a portal open. Shish. Then slammed her foot down onto Naruto's, making him shout out and stumble, which allowed Catnap to pull him into the portal with her. Clay and Raimundo finally appeared, only to see the portal close and Naruto missing. I'm guessing she got away again, Clay said while going over to untie Omi, with Raimundo helping Kimiko stand. Kimiko grunted, kicking a box away in anger. She is not getting away that easily. You say that, Raimundo commented, but we have no idea where she is now. And she still has both the tiger claws and Naruto. You know, back home we have a saying, Clay saw it as they all began walking towards the mall's exit. If you want to catch a rooster, go where it crows. Pulling out her laptop, Kimiko began typing furiously on her keyboard, trying to find some mention of Catnap. You've got a news alert. Her laptop chimed. Clicking the link, Kimiko read the live report out loud, a grin appearing on her face as she read each word. Apparently, there's a craze. Why girl in a cat costume fighting and arguing with a blonde teenager in Catatonia land? Should have figured she'd go there of all the places on Earth. Walking over to look over Kimiko's shoulder, Omi looked confused. What land? Why would she go there? Raimundo chimed in, having heard of the place. It's a big cat-themed amusement park. They've got everything there, a roller coaster, fast rides, good food. And it's not far. Kimiko finished, putting her laptop away once they got outside. Dojo didn't waste any time and grew large, allowing the four friends to climb on so he could fly off towards Catatonia land. Grabbing some kid's ice cream, Catnap took a bite out of it and threw it at Naruto as she continued running away. Get back here, Naruto called after, having to push through the heavy crowd of people. Ashley, we need to talk. No thanks, she called back, taking another kid's cotton candy. She always loved the snacks here. You'll just ruin the vibe here with all the talking nonsense. And she wonders why I broke up with her, Naruto muttered, remembering all the times she would avoid having serious talks just to have fun. You can stay here all you want. Just give me the tiger claws so I can leave. Choosing not to hear him, Catnap instead approached the line for her favorite roller coaster ride but frowned at the long queue of children. Abusing the abilities of the tiger claws, she then appeared at the front of the line and got on the ride alone. Sighing, Naruto moved and sat down on a nearby bench, knowing he was going to have to wait a few minutes for Catnap to get off the ride. Naruto! He heard someone shout. Looking, he was happy to see Kimiko and her friends all running towards him. Are you okay? Kimiko asked once she reached him, quickly bring him into a hug without even thinking about it. I'm fine, Naruto replied, happily returning the embrace. If you guys are looking for Ashley, she's on the roller coaster. She should be getting off in another minute or so. What does it matter? Omi asked in a depressed tone. We have already been defeated twice. How can we possibly win? Kimiko hated to admit it, but her friend was right. It's almost impossible to fight her when she has the golden tiger claws. Even if we catch her, she'll just disappear again and again. There are no lessons in winning, but 1,000 lessons in defeat, Omi said. Repeating what Master Feng had said to the four monks earlier. Naruto nodded at what Omi said, finding the words wise and something to remember. Does anyone have a plan? He asked after a few moments, only to see the others all shake their heads. No. Okay, well it's a good thing I've got one then. I'm just going to borrow this for a moment, he said, walking off and waving an item for the others to see. What? Hey! Kimiko shouted, noticing that Naruto was now holding the eye of dashi that she had stashed in her bag. Laughing at her reaction, Naruto said, you'll get it back. Don't worry. Like I said, I've got a plan. He then pointed to everyone's right. When they all looked, they all saw something flying the distance and it was getting closer by the second. It took a few moments before they realized it was Jack Spicer and some robots, probably here to try and get the Wu back from Catnap like they were. Walking out of the roller coaster exit, Catnap laughed to herself at the fun she just had. She had been on that ride dozens of times now and it never gets old. Looking around to see what ride to go on next, she stopped as she saw her favorite person standing in front of her with his arms crossed. Judging by the look on his face, she could tell that he was still going to try and have a talk with her. What? Going to try and spoil more of my fun? She sarcastically asked, walking past Naruto. You know, instead of looking at me like that you could actually smile and have some fun with me. I'm going to give you one last chance, Ashley, Naruto said, ignoring how Catnap purred when she heard her name. Give me the tiger claws. You can stay and have all the fun you want here but not with that Wu. Catnap raised her arm and examined the tiger claws. Seeing it glint beautifully in the sunlight. Can't do that, she then said, this thing here is my ticket to whatever I want. No way I can just hand it over. Naruto then sighed and shook his head. Before Catnap can react, Naruto's hand shot forward and grabbed the tiger claws around her wrist. She hissed and tried to pull her arm back but Naruto held his grip. The Wu then began to glow as Naruto smirked. Then I challenge you to a Shaolin showdown. Glaring at the teen, Catnap then smirked. Fine, what's the game, Whiskers? She purred, trying to tease Naruto but he wasn't having it. There was a mechanical whirring sound as Jack Spicer landed, his robot dogs barking as he held their leash. Whoa, what did I miss? You guys having a showdown without me? Actually, Naruto began, now having his own smirk. You're right on time. I wager my eye of dashi against your changing chopsticks. The game is simple, we both have a ribbon tied to us. We just have to steal the other's ribbon. Catnap's eyes widened before she grinned. Ribbon round up. We haven't played that in ages. You never could beat me at that. I accept your challenge. Jack gave a yelp as the changing chopsticks glowed floated out of his pocket. They then flew off into Catnap's hand as the golden tiger claws disappeared in a burst of light. Hey, he whined, those are mine. But everyone ignored him. Shaolin showdown. Naruto and Catnap yelled as the area changed. The air rippled around them as reality warped. The roller coaster, food stalls, and screaming kids of Catatonia Land faded away, replaced by an enormous open jungle gym of floating platforms, ropes, poles, and bounce pads stretching endlessly into the sky, a cartoonish vertical maze perfect for a high-speed chase. Two long, glowing red ribbons appeared and tied themselves to the backs of Naruto and Catnap. At the same time, the eye of Dashi and changing chopsticks hovered beside their respective owners, pulsing with energy. Gong Yi Tan Pai. They both shouted. They launched in opposite directions, instantly leaping into motion. From the sidelines, the four monks and Jack stood on a safe viewing platform, high above the action. Yeah, Naruto. Kimiko cheered, pumping her fist. Show that psycho cat who's boss. Naruto starting a showdown without even blinking. Now that's some serious grit, Clay muttered, tipping his hat. Boy's got nerve. I'll give, I am that. Let us hope his skills match his confidence, Omi added seriously. This game looks as though it requires great agility and awareness. Jack flailed his arms. You're all missing the point. That was my Shen Gong Wu. Catnap just stole it again. I mean, what the heck, I'm right here. Raimundo gave him a side glance. Cry harder, dude. This is the most exercise you've had all week. Back in the showdown, Naruto activated the Eye of Dashi, letting loose a powerful bolt of lightning that zapped toward Catnap. She twirled midair and reached for the changing chopsticks. Grinning as she tapped herself and suddenly shrank down to the size of a mouse, leaping between cracks in the platforms and sprinting along tiny ledges with cat-like speed. Too small for your lightning now, Whiskers. Her tiny voice called out from below, followed by the sound of scampering feet. Naruto narrowed his eyes, flipping forward over a bar and landing in a crouch. So you're playing mouse now. Fine, let's see how fast you are when the storm comes in. He unleashed a wide arc of lightning down toward the lower platforms, causing a chain reaction of small explosions. Catnap yelped as the shockwaves flung her into the air. She quickly struck herself again with the chopsticks, returning to full size mid-leap and landing hard on a trampoline platform that launched her back upward. I'm not just running, she shouted as she twisted midair. Naruto raced across a tightrope and leapt toward her. She extended her claws, trying to swipe at his ribbon, but he angled his body at the last second. Sailing just overhead. Almost got your tail, she purred. He didn't respond. Instead, Naruto ran straight up a pole, jumped off it mid-spin, and launched another bolt of lightning downward. It didn't hit her directly, but it fried the platform she stood on, forcing her to leap off balance. That was the moment. Naruto launched forward with a chakra-enhanced dash, appearing directly behind her in a blur. Before Catnap could react, his fingers closed around the end of her red ribbon. Snap! The ribbon fluttered in his hand. Naruto wins. Kimiko shouted with a victorious grin, practically bouncing on the platform. The arena shimmered and twisted as reality restored itself. Catatonia Land phased back into view. The Eye of Dashi, changing chopsticks, and gold. Tiger claws all floating down and landing in Naruto's arms. Catnap landed hard on the grass beside him, groaning. You cheated somehow. You had to cheat. Nah, Naruto replied calmly. You're Zhu. Not used to someone beating you without falling for your games. Jack ran up from behind, holding his arms out. Okay, great. Now give me my chopsticks back. Not how this works, Jack, Kimiko said as she, Clay, Omi, and Raimundo caught up. She actually slapped Jack's hand away, making him whimper at the small sting. I won them fair and square, Naruto added, still holding the Wu. Catnap said in frustration as her cats gathered around her. She stomped toward Jack's hovercraft parked near the edge of the path, the robot dogs still yapping inside. Jack, we're leaving. Now. Jack blinked. Wait, what? But now, Spicer. She snapped, already climbing into the passenger seat. Muttering under his breath, Jack hopped in after her. The engine roared to life as the vehicle lifted off the ground. You owe me Shen Gong Wu. He shouted back at her as they sped off. You owe me a win, so shut up and fly. She yelled, kicking the dashboard. The hovercraft zipped away into the distance, smoke trailing behind it. Naruto watched silently as Catnap vanished into the sky. Kimiko stepped beside him, her arms lightly brushing his. You did great, she said with a small smile. Naruto gave her a quiet nod. The wind blowing gently through his hair. Yeah, I just hope she cools off before next time. She better not kidnap you again, Kimiko said with a frown, elbowing Naruto a little, which only made him laugh nervously. Something tells him that if that did happen again, it would be Kimiko hurting him, and he didn't want that. Clay clapped a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Gotta say, partner, that was some fine showdownin'. You had her spinnin' like a bull on branding day. You showed excellent control and focus, Omi added. A true Shaolin warrior would be proud to call you ally. Raimundo whistled. Never thought I'd see the day someone outplayed Catnap at her own game. That was slick. Naruto chuckled lightly, scratching the back of his head. Guess I had a little extra motivation. We noticed, Kimiko teased. Nudging him. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. Details in description.